Hey, what's up? This is my review of the Zodiac Super Sea Wolf 53 Skin Blue, and the blue part is in quotations, single quotations, according to the Hodinkee site. And this reference number is Z09211. This is a Hodinkee exclusive. It's not necessarily a limited edition, but I guess you can say it's a special edition or exclusive, only sold through the Hodinkee shop. And yeah, we'll get right into it. If you hear some noise in the background, forgive me, it's laundry day, so I got to get that going. Yeah, so this is only bought through there, and what I like about this is that it's, you know, something different than your typical Zodiac. Most of them in this more vintage style, I would say. The early Super Sea Wolf style, I would say this is like the first style. That has these triangle markers and like dolphin hands set and all that. This one is typically very monochromatic, like a black dial, black bezel, or stainless steel bezel. Maybe sometimes a white dial or kind of off-white, maybe even silver dials, I think. The only other time I've seen a blue one is has been something similar, but it has a date window, which I personally don't like because it throws off the symmetry. I just believe this style should have just like a matching triangle with a 3 in it, as opposed, you know, so it all looks like it's one thing. It doesn't break up the symmetry, which this is really nice at doing. And it has, I believe it has a stainless steel bezel. So as far as I know, this is the only Zodiac Super Sea Wolf model that is all in blue like this. Blue dial, blue bezel. And yeah, let's go over the case dimensions real quickly. It's 40 millimeters. It might possibly wear slightly larger because of the bezel. You see it slightly overhangs, so, but not by much. But I think it wears very much like 40 millimeters to me. What else is there? The thickness, I believe, including the Sapphire Crystal, that's, I feel it's ever so slightly domed, is about 13 millimeters, which is not too bad. And when you wear it and you see it on wrist, it actually is wears pretty nice because you can see the actual mid case itself, where it starts to divide right here and go under, and how it's divided right below the bezel. Just that part of it will look and wear pretty thin, which is good. And you got that nice thin coinage bezel on this unidirectional 160 click, and it's a pretty good bezel. There's not really any, I mean, I wouldn't say it's back play. It's just kind of, you can kind of wiggle ever so slightly, but it's basically set once it hits that click. You know, it's not really, I wouldn't say there's any play really. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but it's not like you can really, you know, shift it into it. Like if it landed on like a half mark, it wasn't lining up, it's not like you can really like nudge it and kind of move it into sort of alignment. It'll just go right past it and not be aligned. But luckily this does align, and it's very solid and positive, and it's actually a pretty good bezel. Go back to dimensions, sorry. Lug to lug, I measure 46 millimeters from end to end, and these are female end links, and you can see they're actually maybe ever so slightly, maybe they are in line with the very edge, but I thought maybe they look a little bit inboard of the lugs themselves slightly, but no, I guess not. It does pop out to be about the same level. You can see across here, and so it wears pretty comfortably. These are 3 links, but they don't flex like right in the middle part, but I've not found any problem with comfort. And the lug width is 20 millimeters, so it's a pretty nice set of dimensions, right? Sapphire Crystal. They do use mineral crystal for the bezel, which is, I think, kind of unusual. You would think that they'd probably be able to do this out of sapphire, because I know many other brands that have this kind of look. I guess it kind of mimics Bakelite. Usually just do it in Sapphire, more scratch resistant. But whatever, it just seems to work. I never had a problem with it. I'm pretty easy on my watches anyway, so as you can see, this condition of this watch is really good. I'm actually going to be in the process of selling it, unfortunately. I thought I would keep it, and I was, but then some things come up, you look at this and that, and you start thinking, well, I'm not going to have all this time for X amount of watches in my collection as much as I want, and I don't like having them sit around, so I'd rather just part with them, get some money back, and maybe find a new home for this for an owner who will be able to give it more love and attention and time on the wrist. So as this goes, this is kind of a video for anyone who's interested to further see us in this condition, if they need to see it in better, better than what I can provide online through photos. And you can see there's a little bit of, this high polish outer part of the solid case back is, something like this is bound to pick up some sort of scratches or fine things, but it's nothing disgustingly bad about it. These are maybe from, I don't know, when I had it on a needle strap or something. Who knows? I really can't remember. It's not from this, because it doesn't really touch it in that way. But what's nice is that this is perfectly aligned across. You can see that, so that works out pretty nicely. It's not at a slant. I did go in and regulate this FYI. It was running a little fast, but now that I did regulate it, it's really damn accurate. It's barely a second off a day for reals. It's like plus, I don't know, it just says it's +1 a second a day, if even that. Holds time really good. And it's, I think it's, the movement in here is an STP 3-13. 44-hour power reserve, 26 joules. It's basically, based on a 2824-2, but it's got some differences there. And one of the major differences, and I think it's a great feature, is that the regulator for the regulating the movement is a swan neck one. So that allows for really nice, precise regulation of the movement, because just the way a swan neck regulator works, you work with a screw pin that you screw or unscrew from the side. That's how it's kind of going through, and basically it moves. It's hard to describe, but it moves like this, the lever for the regulator, and you can do big movements for the screw, but it actually translates to small movements of the regulator, versus like a Seiko where you have like a lever where you push, and that can really, not much will throw it off quite a bit. I'd say what you normally get in like a Swiss Etta movement with they have like a little screw that could work okay, but there are some times that you might, because it's so tiny in the way you're doing it, you could overturn it kind of quickly too if you're not careful. And I think the way the swan neck regulator works is it allows you to have a wider turn or motion with very incremental movement, so you really can carefully fine-tune it, and somehow that's what I did. And I have some measurements I've done, recorded over 2 different apps that kind of just cross-confirm basically where it's sitting at in terms of its performance. So that's what I'm pretty happy about. And so for me, I don't know, I like wearing watches that longer periods that keep their time. It's just like, I want to see how long this thing can keep up before I get annoyed and have to reset it. That's just how I approach a lot of the watches. And sometimes that makes me kind of feel like, oh my God, this thing is so accurate. Also, and I've been keeping it on the wrist that it's taking time away from the other watches, because I just, that's the way I do it. And so, then I kind of force myself to take it off and try something else for a while, just to, get the other watches running. They should be run, right, on occasion, so they're not just sitting there all the time. So it's been really good. What else can I say about this? Solid end links, actually. Solid links. There's screw. Actually, wait a minute. No, not. They are pin and collar, I believe, for the most part. yeah. There's probably a collar in here, but I'm pretty sure you take it out from here. You know, I'm having a hard time remembering. It's gotta be, yeah, because pin collar, because actually this bracelet has like a bit of a suspension system, and yeah, there's a little scratch here, but it's from this side. Make contact, that's just gonna happen. There's no way you can avoid that. But yeah, see, there's this kind of give in the bracelet right at this end link, or not end link, at this link. And it has two sets. It has one on this side, but I took that one out because it's just the way I need it to fit on my wrist. It just doesn't work out that way. Like I couldn't use it. And, you know, I don't wear my watches that tight where I'm going to really, this is going to come into play much for myself, you know. I don't think my wrist swells up that much. And I usually get it fitted pretty well where I basically try to do it with no adjustment. But if it has it, then that's good. But, you know, this has 4 micro adjustments, which is plenty. No real diver extension, but I never use that anyways. And what I was going to say, so let's get this on wrist. Today I'm on my Seiko Prospex chronograph. It's like a 60th anniversary. Really like this piece. I'm glad I'm able to get one. Yes, they're damn pricey, but I'll do a review on it, but I kind of think it's worth it. Anyways, we'll get this on my wrist, and my wrist for reference is less than 7 inches, just under. I measure 6.875 inch, which is basically 6 7/8 inch. Not quite larger than 6 3/4, smaller than 7. So yeah. And let me try to back this up a little bit so you can see how it wears. And you know, this thing is not that thick, like I said. It's actually pretty thin, and what you can make out of the mid case, which is kind of subdivided from the bezel, and a little bit is kind of, you know, going off on the bottom, hiding under the wrist. It really wears quite low and thin, and it has nice curvature. I do find this one works pretty well on my wrist. It just curves really good without much gap on either side. If I can hook my arm and head around this, and the female end links help. What I was going to say, so the way this is adjustable, unfortunately I took out all the links that I could from this side, right? Even just about all the removable links I took out, except for well, this is not removable, but the one that has that little bit of give, you know, spring action in it, as you can see there. And I can't remove this. I could remove this one. It's just the way this thing is attached into the bracelet here. It's like this doesn't go in, and I can't figure out how the heck did they secure this to this clasp, other than potentially there is a it's maybe like a pin that they tapped in to secure it from both sides, and then that just locks in and friction, and that's it, and it's on there permanently. I don't even know how you would get it out. There's no way to really get in there to remove it. You know, there's no like little slot. And you know, I tried testing this, pushing it in, unless it's a really tight spring bar or something, but this does not push in where you can release this and get that out. So I have no idea how you would get this thing out of here. So I wasn't able to remove it. Otherwise, I would have taken that out and left the adjustable or spring action one on this end instead, because as it is, if you didn't notice before, it sits. This is kind of centered at my wrist. You can see here, the logo is centered, which is kind of okay, but when I have these kind of clasps, you can see there's a little bit of fine scratches, but nothing too crazy. And again, something in this area, it's everybody who wears a watch normally will eventually get something on here, so you know, I wouldn't pay that too much mind. But anyway, so I try to get this part of it more centered in with the overall wrist. I like the whole clasp to be more centered, and if anything, if I need to have one side shorter and close for this to be closer to one side or the other, I prefer it on the inside part. It tends to wear better for me. A lot of times if I'm having this more on the outside, I feel like it has a little bit more potential for the watch to somehow get loose and start slipping back that way, which really annoys me. I can't stand that. But luckily, I don't think I've really had that issue with this. But visually, you know, if I have to be picky about it, this should be, if you remove exchange, if I could exchange this one, remove that and put that one back on this side, and so I can shift this right about here, I think that'll look about right to me, like centered with the overall wrist to the hand, right? If it was over more, but I can live with it. Or the other thing is I could flip the whole bracelet around, but it'd be kind of weird to have the logo on this side, right? And flip and secure the watch this way instead. I don't know, it's kind of, there's no good way around it, so that's what I'm stuck with. But say if you have a large enough wrist, probably may not matter, and you can add that link back in here and it may sit more like that, right? That's what I'm looking for. I think this sits right about there. I like to have the overall class in line there, but if I did that, you can see it's starting to move out to the outer, so I can't. I would have had to remove that. So that's something to consider. This one adjustable stretchy link is not removable, but this side is, just the way it hooks onto this you know, the micro adjust, right? And you just pop it in. You can take it out. This one you can't. Enough said. So this is a signed class. I think it's pretty cool. I will say that this is, I'm not sure, I wouldn't say it's a defect necessarily, but you can see this side of this flip lock kind of curves in a bit more towards that recessed area. So it's pretty tight, so trying to get, if you don't have nails, it's going to be kind of hard to get under there and lift this out. Right, so I'm going to try to do that. Sometimes if you just give yourself a little bit of wiggle, it kind of moves up a bit. But yeah, there, I got it. And then sometimes I can do it now, but sometimes even if you can't get your nail under there, it can be a bitch to actually unlatch from the things that are kind of springing out to lock it from the outside. Yeah, I can do it now, but then yeah, these things here can lock surprisingly hard there. Like, even if I can get, it's cooperating right now, but there are sometimes I get there and I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna pull out a nail. This thing's, anyone who's potentially buying this particular example, and I don't know if it's like this across the board. Sorry, I had a slight interruption. I was saying, yeah, so it's not really a defect. You just got to know that this is kind of tight in here. So if you don't have nails, and for some reason, even if you could get it under there, and it's giving you a tough time, and it has in the past for myself, kind of sucks. But overall, this watch wears so nicely though on the wrist. And then again, I like the fact that it's uniquely blue, and it's a nice blue. You see this nice radiant texture, not texture, it's radiant, and this probably this lighting and the reflections I'm getting off of my light box here is not doing it quite some justice. Maybe if I have time to edit, I'll throw in some other shots that I've done with my watches strap-in series where you can see this in probably better, more natural lighting. But yeah, and overall, it's nice and deep, and it can get quite dark, but then it can also really pop and liven up in really nice lighting, like outdoors or in just the right lighting. So anyways, my workaround this is that because I don't usually leave at least enough space between wrist and strap or bracelet for, you know, comfort fitting. not too tight, not too loose, just to slip in a finger. So what I do is, the back part of this clasp, where it folds over, you just kind of slip your finger in there, and then just pop it open. Just kind of, yeah, you just kind of, you can imagine that this part was folded over. I'm slipping my finger right in between here when it's folded over, and then that, as I guide it through, it'll actually help me pop off the thing when this is too tight. Like it just won't want to give, and I can't understand why it's holding so tightly. Yeah, but today it's actually kind of working, which is weird. Anyways, if you can't do that, yes, there is a slight 2 scratches here, but anyways, you can always brush that out if you're really annoyed by it, but it'll probably happen eventually. Again, I just slip my finger right in between, and that's actually pretty easy. And if you don't wear your, if you wear your watch even looser than I do, then that would be even easier. I do like, it's kind of odd that they left this cut out here, but yet something about it looks kind of cool to me. I don't know why. In one sense, it looks sort of unfinished and a bit raw, just to see like this, the way it looks like inside here, right through it. But I mean, I don't think it serves any purpose, though. It doesn't. You're not needing to drain more water or whatever through. Doesn't necessarily let your wrist breathe anymore. It's just a design that they've had on this type of class. But yeah, and then that just covers that with the logo. So that's how it looks like. And I believe it's using a mix of BGW9 and some other Super Luminova, which is another cool aspect of this, which is super unique, is that it has a mix of blue and orange loom. Yes, but generally, from what I've seen, maybe their new Pro series that they recently released has better loom. It should. I can't confirm this. I would think that they call it Pro, yes, but I think in the past their loom has been kind of okay, kind of passable. I think if you compare it to something like a Glycine or Hamilton, if you're familiar with their kind of loom, which is sufficient, but it's not really spectacular, and generally not, I would say, particularly long lasting, but sometimes depending on what the watch is, it can get by. This is similar, but I would say, so everything looms up blue, except for the bezel is not loomed, except for one pip here. There is a blue pip inside, right there. You can just make it out, right? You see that? Right inside there, but the rest of it isn't. It would be cool if it did, but no big deal for me. Overall, the look is nice. The tip of this actually is loomed blue as well, the second hands, but so thin, you can imagine it's not much there. And as with the indexes, they're pretty thin, but those are blue. The only ones that are orange are the cardinal points, 12, 3, 6, and 9. And from my experience, anything but blue and green usually does not loom very long for all that well. But for when it does, able to, you can catch it actually freshly charging. It's a cool sight to behold for a few minutes. I'm trying to think. I mean, it really doesn't last too long. I'd say 10-15 minutes. It gets to a pretty dim level. I would say generally throughout the night, most of the loom fades, except where it matters, the hands and minute, for the minute and hour hand. Those you can still read, and maybe the pip too, but these other things like the indexes and definitely the ones that are glowing orange and second hand so thin, those would just be gone or just too faint because, to read. But you can just barely probably pick that pip, and definitely the hands actually will last good enough throughout the night from my experience. So you still be able to read the time. You just won't have any markers to really reference, but come on, I mean, if you've been wearing wristwatches, you can tell the time by the angle of the hands, right? You don't really need the markers unless really precise reading, but I don't think most of us will need that. Right in the middle of the night, you get a good general estimation of the time just by that the relationship between the hour and minute hands, right? What was I saying? Let's just get a closer look at this. Sorry about the dust, but can't be helped. Applied indexes. This one ever so slightly has a little bit, You can see right there in that loom, it's like maybe got a little bit of a pinhole or something there, but most of the time you're not really going to notice this. At least I don't, not with my eyesight normally. And when it looms, it really doesn't show up, for me at least. It looks fairly consistent all the way around, as well as it can glow. What else was I going to say? So yeah, love how clean the dial is too, right? The simple Zodiac Super Sea Wolf automatic, and I think, yeah, Swiss made all the way right under the 6, the bottom there, and this just looks good. I like the fact that this is also, I was going to try and do a collection, a mini collection within the collection of Vietnam era watches, right? The ones that weren't really military issue, but were very popular with the U.S. Armed Forces, the military, through their post-Ocean PX, right? And so these are things they can buy through there, and they order it themselves, pay for it their own money, and they get it, and they use it for their own personal use, because they consider the ones generally issued from the military crappy. So like Seiko, like the Willard, for instance, is a popular one. I believe Zodiac, the Super Sea Wolf, which is basically like this design, was also a very popular model. And Glycine Airman, which I also have a version of. It's also very popular, especially with their pilots. And yeah, I think I was going to try to get a Willard too, and I do like that one. I like the green one. I wanted to do those 3, the ones that are from Vietnam era that were favorites of the post-military, their own personal picks, through the postal chains that weren't official military watches, but were definitely used by the military because they found them to be pretty good to use. That would have been cool to have the Zodiac, the Airman, the Glycine Airman, and the Seiko, like a modern reissue, the 42mm version of the Willard. I don't know, Willard Reduced, whatever you want to call it. And I would have gotten that one in that green dial, that olive green dial. That's one of the first 2 colors that they basically started off with that new size. I think that looks cool. It got that military look. And the whole idea was to get things were inspired from those, representative of those watches from that era, but not an exact, reproduction or reissue, like a very standard black color, for example, right? I found that a little boring. I know people like that, and those collectors can feel free to knock the Sims out on that, but I wanted to do something where, yes, I'm taking those, but bring it into the modern age with some new, atypical colors for that watch that you don't normally see. So you get that kind of heritage, but in modern form, and something that hasn't really been seen or done before in the past. And I think that's pretty interesting. There would have been, but I may end up selling. I probably will end up losing some of these watches before I am able to make that video and have at least those 3 watches in my collection to enjoy and kind of do this thing with. But anyways, such is the way things go when you plan, and plans change. And let's get back to the watch. Mostly brush finish, which I like. I'm not a huge high polish fan, but and I really can't spot anything high polish on this at all, except for I guess you could consider the crown and maybe the coin edge on this bezel to be high polish actually, but everything else is completely brushed, which I kind of like. Gives it a more tool vibe, not so blingy, which I dig. I suppose, I mean, the hands, I guess, set and everything, it looks like they are actually polished. I don't think, no, they're not brushed. It's just fine though. It's got a nice pop though, Sign crown, if I didn't mention that, and generally it aligns. Actually, it goes a little bit past that, but I think I just nudge it back to right where it aligns like this, and it's fine. It's going to hold that 200 meters of water resistance, no problem. And it's, I like to, you know, this is aligned, and then everything here is aligned too, right? So it's oops, I went right past it. Should be aligned. Yeah, see? For some reason, sometimes the 30 looks like it's a little bit off of where you would think it land centered, but no, that's fine. And you know, also having a vintage inspired watch, but not actually having to do the faux Tina look. Not that I have anything really a problem with it. I've done that a number of times, and I think on certain watches it looks appropriate and it looks kind of cool. You can just consider a nice matching color tone if you don't consider it faux Tina, to give it a particular look, a feel, character. However you want to rationalize it. But anyways, yeah, I think I like the fact that this still got nice white markers in the daytime and it doesn't have to go full Tina. And the fact that the general Loom formula isn't super strong anyways, I probably wouldn't really opt for something vintage like, because it'll make the already less than spectacular Loom even less so. I would say. So let me let's go into the Loom Shot, I guess, and we'll wrap up pretty soon. Yeah, I hope I can get the lights dark enough in here. So let me check it out. Okay, hopefully I can get this. Let me see if I can bring up the sensitivity on this just a bit. It's still kind of bright where I'm at. I can't really wash out all the ambient light behind me, but hopefully this will give you the idea here that you see the blue hands, and you can make out just the blue at the tip of the running seconds. And you see, oh, actually, sorry, the indexes, even the line, I totally forgot. It's been a while since I tested this, and again, I generally expect the indexes around the dial to kind of fade anyways and not be legible, so I don't really think about it too much. But yes, right, all the index markings on the dial are actually in orange, but it's much easier to see obviously the triangle ones than the thin ones on the outer, you know, that are in between. And again, the pip on the bezel looms, and the hour hands stay pretty good, and it's actually pretty legible. That's just enough reference material. You can imagine the rest fading. And trust me, when you get this in a dark enough room, it really looks really, really cool. I would suggest you check out some of my Instagram or Facebook group photos. To get a really good look at how it looks like in the dark. But generally speaking, you know, I would just charge this, light it up, and enjoy it for the moment. And usually this is before we're going to bed anyway, so I probably won't be seeing it much throughout the night anyway, so no big deal. But at least for what it lasts, for that quick moment after I'm about to hit the sack or something, I can enjoy a nice kind of Loom color. I think it looks pretty good with the blue and orange are actually complementary colors, and when you can't see it pretty good, I mean, with my naked eyes right now, I'm looking around the camera, I can see it really well. It just doesn't show that well on my camera setup right now. But yeah, I think it's a nice unique color and it's kind of fun. I know some of the newest Zodiac Sea Wolves have some orange Loom too, but I'm curious if it lasts as long. Probably not. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted. But there goes the dryer. Hang on. Such as is when you live in a small enough house. Yeah, so I don't know. I think these are nice complementary colors for this particular colored dial. Again, the new Pros, some of them have this orange. I don't think it's any better. I can't imagine it is. The only watch band that does make it seem like they do a good job of it, and maybe it should be no surprise, Seiko. Some of their Seiko 5 lines, like the ones that are more field or pilot watch like, have some of the orange loom on it. And I think some of their more recent special edition, like Prospex, like their black series that might have some of this orange, does seem to be pretty effective, almost as good as their blue and green loom that they're using. So, but other than that, I don't know of anybody else that does really good non-blue or green loom that really, lasts, for one thing. But that's how it is. So let me get the lights back on. Okay, so in conclusion, I think this is an excellent vintage inspired, I guess, reissue, what do you want to call it, kind of, I guess these were considered skin divers, but whatever. I also wanted to do a series, I forgot to mention, with this, as well as my Glycine Airman, which I actually did sell, so I can't do it now, at least until I get another one back, for some of the early divers and GMTs that beat Rolex to the punch. This back in '53, obviously, along with Blancpain, I think practically at the same time, definitely got to the commercial market first, as the first commercially available dive watches with rotating bezel for the general public commercial market, as well as the Glycine Airmans beat Rolex also before getting a commercially available GMT watch with rotating bezel and all of that out to the public before Rolex. And I think they're great value. They've been both in the dive watch and in the GMT line. They've been greatly outshadowed and overpowered by Rolex's now very hyped up image. I mean, it's not without without some good reasons, and there is quality there. I'm not saying that it's not, but they are at this moment ridiculously overpriced and stupid hard to get. It's kind of annoying, and for much less you can get something with something that really beat Rolex to some of its to some of the history that it has in terms of being the first available of a respective type of watch, right, of a dive watch or a GMT. Both Glycine and Zodiac have heritage. They might be both kind of considered a revival brand, or at least they've managed to stay around for a while, let's just say that. But they do heritage, and they do have some iconic pieces, and they've been pretty good quality as far as I'm concerned on both of them. What else was I going to do? I guess if you could, I think this is great to have something, if you like blue dials, this would be really nice to go with, to fit that that colorway for a dive watch if you're looking for that. Blue dial, blue bezel. Looks very classy in some ways because of bezel in particular isn't like fully marked like with 10, 20 or 15 and all that, numbers are fully graduated. Kind of keeps it simple and tones down the bezel, just gives you just enough information, and you can kind of wear this in a dressier setting as well because of that. I just think it has a classy look. Oh, I did forget to mention that this movement has only one position, no date, so you will not get a phantom ghost position. So when you pull it out, it just goes straight to hacking, and it does hack, and then you set the time, and that's it. So that's great. It's not like some watches that use it at a base movement that generally has a date in it, right? They didn't do the proper modification to remove the ghost position. You won't have that issue. not a major issue, but it's one of those things that you just kind of have to look past and kind of just, all right, fine, I'm just going to pull it and pull it again. But you don't have to do that with this. In a way, you can actually use this kind of as a countdown bezel because you don't have or count or elapsed time. So you can imagine the numbers counting up this way or counting down this way, right? Because there's no markings and all you have is just a start and 30-minute halfway. So say the same functionally, like say if you time this, you can say, well, if I'm timing 15 minutes from this point, you can do that, right? And then you know when to stop right around here, or 20 minutes, something like that. If it's anything in between, well, you don't have anything but 5-minute increments after a 15-minute mark, right? But if you can use this as a countdown bezel, say from, we'll just say from here, right? Sorry about the interruption. What was I saying? Crap. Oh, countdown. So if you mark this as like your, if you want to mark down 45 minutes, right? So 30, right? 45 minutes from this point, right? So you can count down for 45 minutes from this point. Then you can count down this way until you get here, right? Because you don't have anything that tells you otherwise. It wouldn't say 55 or 50, right? Like you normally would with a elapsed time bezel with the numbers going up this way. Countdown, it goes reverse, so you can imagine, 30s will always be here, but anything other side, so this would be 35, 40, 45. So you can use this as a countdown bezel as well. If you're counting down from, say, I did this wrong. If you're counting down from, say, right here, let's say at the 55 mark, from here, and that's elapsed, that's right, 45 minutes would be, so from here, I'm getting myself confused. That person upstairs threw me off on what I was trying to point out. Okay, so 45 minutes from here would be right there, right? Or 40 minutes. Then you know when to kind of stop. Anyways, I'm just saying, because of the lack of markings, at least number-wise, you can kind of use this as both an elapsed time as well as a countdown bezel. And I guess that's it. I think this will fit well on smaller wrist sizes than my wrist, which is just under 7 inches. I think bigger guys can certainly wear it if they don't mind a 40mm watch, which I think still very classic size. And I think this kind of wears a little bit larger than that. I think it feels maybe slightly more 41 because, again, the bezel is actually a little bit wider than the case. And you're getting the dial color as well as a matching, mostly matching. It is not perfect, but it's close enough. Bezel, it just kind of expands the overall front of the face, right? So it really fills out. So it kind of makes it bigger. I mean, compared to this, for instance, let's say, just looking at the face value of it. This is a 41, and you can see how this compares. It almost feels kind of the same size, doesn't it? Of course, this does bulb out this more, but the dial itself, in the face, I think it basically looks larger. But anyways, it's a good size. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's very versatile. All right. Getting pretty long. I think I said all I wanted to say. Finally did this review. I've had this watch for since 2021. I'm trying to think, when did I get this? It's got to be at least mid or late quarter or so, 2021. And right now, as the filming of this, it's just at the end of May 2022, May 30th. Yeah, more than half a year, but not quite, maybe 3/4, I'm thinking. Is that about right? No, it's probably less than that. But I do think this is a great watch, and I think I'm will list it for a fair price when I get this up. And you know, you won't be paying as much as you would be directly from Hodinkee, but I don't think you'll be ripped off either. Again, I think overall the quality's good. I have all the extra links. You need to get that back on there, but this is size for basically my 7-inch wrist or so. What else is there? Because again, you saw the quality of this just for the watch itself, and even for the most part, the bracelet. Yeah, you know, you're gonna get something there no matter what. How hard you try. Yeah, look, you know, overall it's looking mighty good condition. And it's running really great. Don't forget that. This is like really, it's barely a second off a day. Yeah, if you need to see my measurements, I'll take some screenshots of the apps I'm using just to show you what I can of this, because all my watches I measure every single time I put it on wrist, and for as long as I can until I sell it. So as long as I have it on wrist and I actually do wear it, I will mark it and time it and just record it and just keep that going, because I just like to know where the watch is in terms of its performance, and if I notice any changes, then I do have to investigate and find out what's going on, because I do like a watch that runs great. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one later.